I feel like a hypocrite being against the doctors because I was all in favour of the nurses striking, but the nurses, for me, were not asking for anything too wild. It was fair. 35% is crazy. I presume this is what they're starting with, and they'll probably go down to 30, 25% maybe. That's still far too much. When I see these kind of twerps, these idiots campaigning and selling the streets, it makes me hark for living in an autocracy where unions are stamped out because this kind of thing, holding people hostage, holding lives hostage. James Whale, one of our colleagues, he's saying he is going to hospital each week trying to survive, trying to live. And that is put at risk by these greedy doctors.
Yeah. And some lives are put at risk also. I mean, our elderly neighbour, she has had her hip replacement cancelled 4 times. She's living in constant pain. That's not life-threatening. OK, fine, she'll just be bumped on and bumped on and bumped on. That's an elderly woman who's paid into this service all her life, who's living in agony because a hip replacement is not deemed very important. This is normal people's lives. And as you say, the doctors have got us over a barrel. They've got the government over a barrel.
The thing is, though, that in Scotland, I think I'm right in saying that they've sorted it out by constantly having conversations and by giving them they've settled for 12.5% with extras. So what they're doing is they're saying they're gradually going to bring it back to what it was in 2008, which is what the 35% apparently is. But the thing is, you've got the Health Secretary, Victoria Atkins, who's essentially saying, I'm not discussing it while strikes are on the cards. And you just go, no, that's not a conversation then. That's not negotiation. You negotiate right to the very point. You carry on negotiating and you say, how about if we did this? I mean, the other thing, sorry, just quickly want to mention about the pensions of these doctors, because the pensions of these doctors, as I understand it, are immense.
Yeah.
Actually, they're really, really good, and you wouldn't get them anywhere else.
20%.
At 20%.
20%.
And so I do think that perhaps that's somewhere where they could actually maybe negotiate a bit and say, OK, we will move this back to 38% in some way, but take that into the equation.
Quickly. The nurses settled for 5%, as we know. The consultants are settling, we think, for around 12% with an uplift of 8%, so somewhere around 18%. Yeah. 35% is way off the mark. And talking to all my colleagues, obviously I trained 1 million years ago, my colleagues are furious. They are embarrassed at the behaviour of the junior doctors. They feel this is very unionised, it's very politically motivated. Vivek Trivedi, Rob Lawrenson, I've talked about them before. At the end of the day, people are dying. 100,000 people got late cancer diagnoses as a result of what is happening. They will die. And so what exactly is going through the minds of these doctors? And at the end of the day, we spend 11.7% of GDP on this. It's our money. We're paying for this service. It's a service we're not getting. And actually, if they're not careful, the NHS will not exist in its current form, and very soon.
Where does it go? The bit that I don't understand, this has become so complex because it appears the BMA have a different version of mathematics to everybody else, or a different version of inflation to what everybody else does, different indexes that they're kind of relying on, etc. And then, of course, you've got the fact they've had a pay rise. It's not that they haven't had a pay rise. They've previously had one.
I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, indeed. So they've already had 8.8%, and on top of that, they've been offered 3. So now we're at 11.
Yep.
And now you're right. So 35% untenable.
So they are kind of...
But the question is, Penny, why don't they stop the striking, go back to the table?
But it needs to be both. It needs to be both sides.